But that's like, that's what we're always telling people in mass media too, is like, you do what works for you. Like everyone in media doesn't have to do all the different things in media. So if right now in this season of my life, like pitching TV segments doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And that's why I do more of the writing and things like that I can do on my own time, which
Hello, and welcome to episode 28 of the Master the Media podcast. I'm your host, Amy Gorin, and I'm here today with a special guest, Melissa Boufounos. Hello, Melissa.
hi, thanks for having me on.
So great to have you here. And today we're going to be talking about Melissa's journey to becoming a media nutritionist. Before we dive in, I just want to let everyone know that we're hosting a free masterclass tomorrow on how to land $50,000 in brand partnerships in the next 6 months. So you can grab your spot at masterthemedia.co/masterclass. So, Melissa is a Master of the Media student and also a media coach for us. She did so awesome in the program that I hired her. And Melissa, I was trying to think, like, when did you start Master of the Media?
It was, I want to say it was 2022 because my son was born in September 2021 and I was on the call sometimes with him as like a newborn-ish. So it's like, I think like the cohort close to 2022 or early 2022.
Yeah. Okay. So I was trying to remember, and I remember he was tiny, and
Yeah.
obviously he's not so super tiny
Yeah.
anymore. He's what, 4
No.
right now?
He turned 4 in September. So yeah, we're getting close to almost
Crazy.
4.5 now.
So wild.
Yeah.
And Melissa, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. So my background, funny enough, started in media. Just like you, I know you have like a journalism background as well. So after high school, I went to a college for broadcast journalism. And then I went to a specialty college and did sports journalism. And I started that career for a little while, but quickly realized it wasn't really what I had in mind. I had always been interested in like nutrition and fitness and health. So I went back to school to a specialty college that does holistic nutrition here in Canada. So it was like a 1 year program in class that I took, and I became a certified holistic nutritionist. And then I did a couple of extra certification courses after that, like precision nutrition. I did a personal training course. And then, I kind of forgot about the journalism stuff for a little while until I got introduced to you and Master the Media. So I had been doing freelance writing, but like sports journalism, not nutrition journalism. And when you came into my world, I was kind of like, wait, what? Like I could combine my actual two like education pathways. So my parents were super excited that I was actually putting to use my journalism diplomas that they paid for. And so, yeah, I started doing like media nutrition, which is kind of what I wanted to do from the get go.
That's so amazing. And how did Master of the Media come on your radar in the first place?
Yeah, so there was someone I knew through my holistic nutrition school who was doing the social media for someone in your world. And then that person, I think, had been an affiliate for you and they had posted about you. And I was like, well, if I trust my friend who's doing her social media, then I must trust her. So I'll just trust this recommendation. And so, yeah, I went to your masterclass at the time and then immediately signed up for Master the Media.
And that was you guys 3 years ago, which is wild.
Yeah, like almost 4 now, but yeah.
Yeah, I know time. Oh, right. Hello, Amy. It's 2026, not 2025.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
okay.
life with a newborn.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, I have so many questions for you. I think I'm just gonna let you like tell your story because there's that, I know our listeners are gonna have questions about you being a nutritionist, being, someone who lives in Canada, not America. But let's start with just how was it having a little nugget and trying to balance everything in the media world? And what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So I mean, it was crazy. I was overly ambitious, I will say, as a new parent, just being like, oh, babies are supposed to sleep for like 18 hours a day. So I'll just like put him in his cradle and like do some work. And he was like, no, mom, I have other plans for you. I need to be held all day, every day.
Oh, like
And
24/7.
pretty
Yeah.
much. And he did not like carriers. So like I couldn't even put him in a carrier to hold him. He physically wanted to be held. And so I'd be like holding him, trying to like work on my computer, and it was not working. And I was, very stressed. And so that again is around the time that you came into my world. And I was like, oh, I could be finding different ways to make money that's not just trading my like one-on-one client time or other ways I was doing work. So it was very intriguing to me to like, okay, I could pitch media, and then like when they get back to me, I will find time in the evenings when my husband's home to like write these articles and do work, versus trying to like fit that in during my like 9 to 5 window. And then when he was 18 months old, I did put him in daycare full time. And then that like opened up a whole new world for me because at that point I had been pitching brands and media. So I was able to take on like more article assignments that editors had available. So that became like a big like financial thing for me for a while, was the actual freelance writing over brand partnerships. So yeah.
And what outlets were you writing for? Or are you
Uh,
writing for?
Yeah, so at the time I was writing for MindBodyGreen a lot, but then I picked up a big contract for, why did the name just leave my head? Fortune. So Fortune had a like review section, but unfortunately, when all the Google stuff like changed like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, where the big sites were getting in trouble for like abuse of their names and creating these review sites. Overnight, like the entire website was taken down. So like that was a massive contract for me and was bringing in a lot of money. I was doing a couple of articles a month. And so overnight that like disappeared, which was pretty scary. But yeah, I was writing for them, Mind Body Green. I was doing a few different reviews for like US 360 reviews. I was writing for Clean Plates and things like that.
I mean, it's wild that they disappeared overnight. And I mean, that's the crazy thing about this line of work is it happens sometimes with brands, like a brand. Well, I've worked like huge contracts with brands, and then all of a sudden they're like, we lost our financing, we're out of business. But that is why you have multiple, balls up in the air all at the same time, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was a good lesson for me because I think it is, once we have a contract and it feels secure, sometimes like stop pitching because you're like, I don't want to pitch because I have 4 articles a month that are taking up like takes me a whole week to write one article. So if I'm doing one a week and getting paid like a full salary basically, I wasn't pitching. And so that was, a scary realization for me of like, okay, no, even if I have one contract, I need to be pitching even brands, like not just media. Like maybe I couldn't take more media publications on with the schedule I had, but I should have been pitching more brands at the time instead of kind of sitting back being like, sweet, my finances are taken care of. Because like you said, all of a sudden one of those balls comes down and yeah.
I think you have to learn the lesson however it's taught to you. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
I had to go through a few of those to be like, oh, okay, not that we want to be working with 20 brands at the same time, but
Yeah.
maybe 3 to 5 is a good number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so let's go back to something you said a minute ago about, the income that you've earned from media and brand work. What is that number?
Yeah, so I think at this point, like since 2022, I had done the math and it's like over $80,000 that I've done
Wow.
between brands and media. So yeah, that's a super exciting extra revenue income stream for sure.
Yeah, that's a hugely impressive number.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us more about, because I know you shared the freelance writing. Tell us about your brand partnerships.
Yeah. So I mean, I had some brand partnerships, quote unquote partnerships before I joined Master the Media. But when I joined Master the Media, I quickly realized doing free work for brands is not a brand, it's not a brand partnership. Or like receiving products for like, them using my name and likeness and creating social content and writing for their websites is not a great trade-off for my, credibility and my name and likeness. And I had done some smaller gigs where like I had written a blog post and done 3 or 4 social media posts for a $400 rate. And so when I joined Mass the Media, I was like, oh, one social media post should have been like double what I got for that entire contract. Like, okay. So the first, I would say once I joined Mass Media, the first brand partnership actually kind of fell into my lap through the freelance writing I was doing. So because I was writing a lot, brands were pitching me products and samples like daily. My inbox would be flooded with, can we send you this? Can we send you that? And I had said yes to a product that was for endurance athletes. I had never heard of them before. They were a new product. And so once I got the product and tried it for myself as a sports nutritionist and athlete, loved it. So then I wrote them back and was like, yeah, I will try to find an opportunity for you in editorial coverage, but I'd also just love to work with you. And so I've now been working with that brand for this will be my third year working with them. And I do
Wow.
I do blogging for them, like behind the scenes kind of stuff. So that's what our partnership looks like. And that was the first one. So that was super exciting.
I mean, that's so cool. And it is really awesome and crazy how your mind is often, opened up to, oh, that's what I should be, compensated for. But I do want to say for everyone listening that we all start at that place of undercharging. Like even me, my very, very first brand partnership, I did a radio segment for a brand, and I was just so excited to get paid that, I was like, here's a $500 check. I didn't even want to cash it. Of course, like that segment was 30 minutes, and I can't tell you how many hours of research, and I should have been paid more than $500, but that's
Yeah.
besides the point.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the opportunity. It's something you get to put on your website that you've been seen in, that you have proof of concept. So, yeah, I mean, I would say even the current partnership I have with that brand is, less than maybe what some other people would charge for blogging. But it is a small, brand new brand, and I now have 3 years of proof of concept with them. But what I learned from you and Master Media was like I can change where the name and likeness and that usage goes in. So instead of just giving them free reign of like my name can stay on things forever or you can post about it everywhere, it's very much like, okay, here's the blog post. My name can go on that for 3 months and then it comes down. But for the writing aspect of it, it's a rate that feels comfortable for me and still pays 3 times as much as what like a publication rate would be. So it's a better use of my time to write that, even if the rate is less than what maybe a bigger brand has or what someone else might be willing to take.
Totally. And for you guys who are listening, that I don't know the actual number that Melissa's talking about, but usually brands will pay between $2 and $3 a word for writing for their websites. And
Yeah.
that includes like a couple of months of your name and likeness on the article. So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of your favorite partnerships that you've done.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite ones is one here in Canada with, again, someone who reached out to me. So that was super exciting. It was someone who had seen my content regularly on LinkedIn, of all places, and they had been following my journey. And I had been connected with the owner of this company from years prior, just through hockey. And he was like, I've seen the change of direction, and now you're into nutrition, and like we would love someone to write content for our website. And they're an insurance provider to hockey players. So like it has nothing to do with a nutrition
That
product.
is so cool and so niche.
Yeah, exactly. Very specific, but they create resources on their websites for like coaches to use and people to use who might use their insurance product. So they asked me to create nutrition content for them. And again, now we're in our second year. And so I've done some blogs for them, but a lot of our stuff is social media. So I do like a once a week kind of post collaboration with them on social media. And I love it because, especially this year, we're doing collab posts instead of me just sending them posts. So it allows me to have one more piece of content per week that I would have created for myself anyway. So it's sitting on my feed, it's collabed with them. So yeah, I'm already creating the content. It's fun. It's for the hockey world and very niche to me. So it's probably my favorite one to date.
That's really cool. And yeah, and you're getting in front of their audience, which
Yeah.
gets your, account growing too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And how because this whole world of working with the media, working with brands, it can be really flexible, and it can also be like, how do I make this work schedule wise, because you have so much flexibility.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you and your family? Because I know you have a partner, you have a little one.
Yeah, my days are busy, and then on top of like my nutrition work and then my media stuff, I like you said, I work with mass of the media as well. So I'm doing a lot of different things, which is also fun. Like it's cool that I get to wake up every day and kind of do something different. Because I'm not like a sit at a desk and do the same task day in, day out at like a 9 to 5 job kind of person. So it's super exciting that like every day I wake up and can do something a little bit different. But yeah, my time is limited. So it's great that I have found this other source of income through brands, through media work, because like I'm responsible for school drop off and pickup. My husband leaves for work at like 6:30 in the morning, and I can't drop my son off at school till 9 o'clock in the morning. So once I'm home, like my day starts at 9:30 and it's done by 3 p.m. So it's a very small work window. I will sometimes work in the evenings, once my husband's home. I might do a few hours on the weekend if I'm doing an exciting project or like I've picked up an assignment or want to do some media work. But I'm working less than 30 hours a week, I would say, most weeks. So yeah, it fits. It fits around our schedule. Where it can get a bit complicated is like the TV segment. So this is something I'm kind of struggling with right now is where I live, we have basically one TV station opportunity. And the segment they do is at 7:45 a.m. And so that would require like so much shifting of like my husband would have to go like 3 hours late to work for me to do a TV segment. So we're trying to navigate this behind the scenes because I'd love to be pitching myself and doing more TV segments. So that's where things could get a bit tricky with some media work, but most media and brand work doesn't have a timeline and you can kind of do it on your own time, which is great.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that you live in a smaller area of Canada where, like you said, there's one station.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, that would be really cool if you were able to figure out your schedule because then you could potentially do, sponsor segments for
Yes.
brands on the
Yeah.
episodes. So that would be really awesome.
Yeah, and I think this year too, I'm gonna get more into like some of the virtual, try to do some virtual TV segments because then I don't even have to leave my house, which makes it even easier to pitch those. So
I love that for you. I mean, that's a great workaround until you figure out the timeline of the in person, absolutely.
yeah, but that's like, that's what we're always telling people in mass media too, is like you do what works for you. Like everyone in media doesn't have to do all the different things in media. So if right now in this season of my life, like pitching TV segments doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And that's why I do more of the writing and things like that I can do on my own time, which is why I love this line of work because yeah, you use what you want, take what you want, and make it work around your life. So
Yeah, I mean, and I am so appreciative of that in this season of life where, we have a nanny, but it's like you said, there's a finite amount of time to work. It's like, if everything runs on time, it's like 10 a.m. to 5:30. And then like what happens if she gets sick or, and that's only 4 days a week anyway. So it's like you have to just rejigger a lot. But that's also what I love about it too. Um, let's talk about you being in Canada.
yeah. What about it?
So I know like I think we get a lot of people coming, into our doors kind of asking like, is this doable if I live in Canada? Am I gonna earn, the Canadian, dollar or the American dollar? Like how does that work? Like tell us everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. One thing I have learned is that, well, two things. So, media here is very different than media in the US, especially written media. Like, we do not have like the clean plates and all the, everyday health and like all these health and wellness publications that are like American. We don't have anything like that here. We have one or two like legacy, magazines like the Chatelaines or whatever that kind of still exist, but they don't really put out online content or not a lot of, nutrition based stuff because I'm constantly looking at these publications and pitching to them and they're like, yeah, we have one editor who just like writes all of our articles and that's that's basically it. Like it's very small. They're not doing that kind of stuff. Sometimes the big newspapers will do a small column on nutrition and be looking to interview experts. But I would say there's not a lot of like Canadian opportunities to provide your expertise, not the same way as American. And same thing, like if you go on Quoted and Harrow and SOS, like you very rarely see like a Canadian publication looking for an expert. So that's where that's different. So a lot of my like media quotes are in American publications. Same thing with like the brands I work with are mostly American. Because I have noticed same thing, like Canadian brands are a little bit different. They're still kind of more into influencer marketing versus like a health expert that they're going to pay. I've gone to a couple of conferences here, and when you like say the words like media dietitian or media nutrition, like their eyes glaze over. They have no idea what you're talking about. Whereas like if you go to Fancy as a dietitian and you say media dietitian, like the brands know what you're talking about. They know what that means. So a lot of my like conversations with brands here is like educating them on what that could look like, but it's hard to when then you're like, oh, but there's no publication I can get their like quotes in, like, so it's very different to work with a brand here. I would say social media partnerships are probably a bigger thing, or speaking opportunities, or again a TV segment on some of the bigger TV stations, especially in like Toronto, Vancouver, that have like national segments. But I also think too, like my credentials are a little bit of the issue too. Like I'm not a dietitian. And so some publications do only want, an RD to give them a quote. So I have seen that come up a few times too. But yeah, I think, as a Canadian, it's fun landing American partnerships because you get paid in American dollars, which makes you feel like a millionaire in Canadian dollars when you
Yeah.
when you get paid. Um, and so that's the other thing too that I like carry into these American brand partnerships is sometimes I am willing to take like less money than what might be recommended, because in Canadian dollars it's significantly more. So if I do like a blog for a brand and they pay 700 US dollars, that's like $1,400 Canadian. So, it feels good to me to take that amount, and it ends up being a win-win because the brand the brand gets to pay less than what they maybe thought, and I'm getting paid more than, what the number looks like. So
Yeah, that's definitely a huge thing. And it kind of tells, because I know sometimes brands who are looking specifically for an expert to work with in Canada, they might have different goals. Like maybe they're looking to get the word out about their products in Canada. Kind of tell us, I think it would be interesting to hear, what are the reasons specifically, like the brands you've worked with are looking for someone like, you specifically to work with in Canada.
yeah, so some of the brands I've worked with in Canada were looking for, like one brand I worked with was a bread company. And so they were looking, again, a social media partnership, but they were looking for health experts. And in that partnership, my holistic nutrition background was okay, was great, because they were looking for a wider audience, and their product has some like, holistic things about it. So it fit, and it fit with my expertise. So I would say like, yeah, brands are sometimes they're looking for like they have a new product launch and they just want to get more information out there, or even sometimes it is an American brand trying to like bring their product to Canada. So I've seen that where some partnerships or conversations have started there, where they're interested in a Canadian like nutritionist or dietitian or healthcare expert to talk about their products more. I would say right now is an interesting time though, because of all the like political stuff that's going on. A lot of Canadians are kind of like boycotting American products. So that also gets tricky, because as a Canadian, I'm struggling. Like, I don't want to show up on TV or on social media maybe promoting an American product right now, because then I feel like my Canadian followers are going to be like, boo, we don't trust you anymore. Like, everyone in Canada is boycotting American products. So there's just an interesting like landscape to be part of right now. And so I have more like behind the scenes partnerships, and I'm more careful about like promoting Canadian products right now, like forward facing, because that's just what the landscape is calling for right now.
Yeah, and I mean that's such an interesting, thing to take into account because it's like, being in America, it's like, yeah, the things that are going on are kind of dicey, and interesting to say the least. Hopefully they'll pass at some point and we'll get to come back to I don't want to say normal because who knows what that means,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely fair to say that, that's something that is top of mind. But I bet you, because I mean, I think one kind of leg up that I've seen just as someone watching people, media dietitians and nutritionists in Canada is like, I feel like your TV segments are a lot more like, sure, come on and talk about a product, than some of our American stations are.
Yeah, it depends on the station. So because I live in a small town, like I had a TV segment last year on a station that actually no longer exists. But that station was very much like, we don't bring whatever you want on here. Like labels are fine, products are fine. Like they don't have to pay a station fee. And I was like, oh, interesting. But because it was my first one, I hadn't pitched like the brands to get paid by them. But I did have a couple of like labeled things. But on the national segments that take place, like no, for sure they have like steep fees.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of them are like crazy expensive. So that's something I watch we have like a daytime talk show here that goes across Canada, and I watch it, like I PVR it on a daily basis to watch and see what is happening on from a nutrition standpoint. And a lot of times they'll bring like chefs and cookbook authors. They do bring dietitians on. They've brought holistic nutritionists on. But when there has been a partnership, and I watch how they do it, how they talk about it, and then you see once the segment's done, they'll have a little white blurb that's like, this episode was sponsored by like Jameson supplements. And it's like multi tens of thousands of dollars because I've looked into that. And so yeah, on those segments, it is very expensive. But if you have a small market in a small town, then yeah, they're like, sure, dude, talk about whatever you want. We desperately want to fill TV time. Like the producer of the show will like pop up in Facebook groups and be like, hey, anybody have a small business that wants to come and talk on TV today? Because like we need to fill more slots in February.
Oh,
So
that's kind of
um
amazing.
so yeah, the small town stuff is fun for sure.
Yeah. And I think, for anyone listening who's like, what is a station fee? So there's some stations who, and this goes for America too, like a fee could be, we were talking with our students yesterday. Someone shared in Oklahoma, like their local station fee is like $700 or $750. I know like in the Northeast, it can be double that. When you get into national, it's probably comparable to what you just shared.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just means like, hopefully if you're going on camera on behalf of a brand, you're getting paid more than that station fee, which is almost always the case.
Yeah, exactly. And I know here too, like they'll put you in touch with the marketing department pretty much immediately, and like the brand actually just pays that, and then like you move forward. Like it's not even like you don't talk to the producer first. They're like, "Oh, you want a segment where you're bringing a product on? Here's our marketing and like sponsorship department," and that has to be paid first. And so, yeah, the brands know that here, which is also great, and then they'll pay that and give you your separate like rate to do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes it much, much cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are your kind of, what are you working on right now? Like, what are your goals? What are your, the things that you would, you know, what do you have up next?
Yeah. So a few things. So I think for me, like this year, definitely trying to like more than double the brand partnerships for sure, because especially like the freelance writing, I wouldn't say it has dried up, but that has definitely like that landscape has changed drastically. So it's much harder to be assigned freelance writing articles. So this year I'm trying to focus a lot more on brand partnerships and pitching some brands and making it a goal that like at least two pitches a week until the ball's rolling, because like
Yeah.
if you're not pitching, it's always a no. And that's what I tell people is like when they're scared to pitch, I'm like, well, if you don't pitch, it's a no. And if you do pitch and it's a no, at least you pitched and it could have been a yes, right? So pitching like one to two brands a week for sure is a top priority for me. Later in the year, I think I'm going to probably roll out a podcast. Like that's been something that has been back of mind for me for a year or two, but then, personal stuff last year made it really challenging to do that. And so this year I have the focus and capability to do that. And having a podcast again opens up more more doors for brand
So many doors.
partnership
Yeah.
opportunities. So yeah, I
So you
think
never know
that's
who's listening.
yeah. That's the big thing I'm gonna do this year for sure.
Oh, I love that for you. Yeah, and I will tell you like I waited several years like before I launched my podcast, and I kept on waiting for, it's like there's never a perfect moment. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, when am I going to have time? Like, is it before or after I have the baby?" And then like, I gave birth in July. I think I launched my podcast in like May. And
I
I
was
was
gonna
like, I
say
need
your first episode was like right before your due date, and you were like,
yeah.
"Hi," and now I'm on that leave.
So it's like you just do it. And like my episode this past, like the previous episode, I just was like, I almost didn't even record it. And I was like, you know what? I think people like they want to know your real life. And that's the beauty of
Yeah.
podcasting is you can just be like totally real, totally yourself. And it's probably just gonna make you have more listeners.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm in a good place where like because I did a lot of freelance writing and PR companies would always reach out to me pitching me people too, not just products. Like I've always saved those emails of like this is a great person who would be connected to the podcast I'm planning to launch. So I've even like responded to those PR people being like, "Hey, like I can't interview this person for an article I'm working on now, but I'm going to keep their information because I'm launching a podcast and they would be a perfect guest." And so yeah, like it's a great all these things are like interconnected, which is great, and you can be doing something completely what feels like irrelevant, but there are dots that connect there, and so you kind of always have to be thinking outside the box, I think.
100%. I mean, and sometimes those like dots are like 20-year-old dots and they come back into your life and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, hi.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Well, and that's what happened with that hockey insurance partnership. Like we were connected like 10 years ago on LinkedIn for something completely different. And 10 years later, they're like, "Oh, we see nutrition content on your LinkedIn. Let's hire you." And I was like, "Hey, that sounds great."
I love that. And I mean, that's like another reason, to keep on pitching is because even if the brand says no, like you don't know if that person's going to move on to a different brand and
Yeah.
be like, oh, hey, I was talking to Melissa, 5 years ago and she'd be the perfect fit now. And, you just
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing too, like how many people you might know that work at brands or like, have connections there. So again, like LinkedIn is great because that's the same thing too, as like I've noticed people in my world. I'm like, wait, you work at this brand I've been wanting to pitch. So then I'm like, hey, like, can you give me
Yeah.
the direct email address of a person I can pitch at your company? Or like give me the ins before I pitch them. Like, what are you guys working on right now that I can like use in my pitch? So yeah, like think about your network too, because it's amazing how it's like that 6 degrees of separation. Like you might know somebody who knows someone who works at a brand you're trying to pitch. So
Totally. Do you have any other, words of wisdom for our listeners before we sign off for today?
I think like my favorite line is just always be pitching. I always say that to people. But also, and I know, I think your last podcast episode was about like not waiting for things to be perfect. And that's it too, right? Like if you're not pitching and you're always waiting and you're holding that like draft in your inbox and like constantly re-looking at it, it's automatically a no. So like you just have to kind of get over yourself and and just like do it and do the work because it won't magically just like fall in your lap. Like media work once you have it and like the brand partnerships once you have it, like yes, it's fun work. Yes, like creating social media content feels easy compared to like a job, but like you had to pitch to get there. So there's a lot of work that has to happen to get to a place where you have partnerships. And I think sometimes people are like, "Ooh, this is so easy." Like it can be, but like there are steps and work that has to go in before it
Yeah,
becomes
totally.
easy.
And
So
you can get to a certain point where things are fine in your lap. But
yeah,
like even now, like having done this for decades, like there are things that fall in my lap. But then I'm like, sometimes the thing that like I really want to do, a brand wouldn't have even thought of. So I have to pitch it to them
yeah,
because otherwise they wouldn't like come up
yeah,
with the idea on their own. So
exactly. Yeah.
so Melissa, where can people find you online?
Yeah, so I have a website, melissaboufunos.com. I have Instagram, which is Melissa Boufounos, LinkedIn, Melissa Boufounos. I love threads, but like my threads is just like unhinged thoughts in my head, and it's not necessarily nutrition related, but it's a great community to like talk about all your other interests. And again, like you grow followers there, and you just never know who's looking, especially when you like kind of go viral on platforms like that for your thought leadership. So like LinkedIn and Threads is where I like to share a lot of that thought leadership and get in front of brands and media people because they're on there looking for like viral things to like talk about. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation. This is awesome. And I will see you in Master the Media.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Melissa. And for our listeners, just a reminder, we're having a free masterclass tomorrow on how to land paid brand partnerships as a healthcare professional. Go grab your spot at masterthemedia.co/masterclass.